All right, welcome. This time we are actually going to look at some fighter, not really fighter, micropods, micro attack craft type designs. So, this type of craft, so you can build something big and bulky and beautiful like this guy over here. This guy is really cool, right? Now, a lot of these designs are not mine, so yeah, I'm not this great. You can build something big and bulky like this, but this, kind of like I was talking with the mining or drilling, whatever you want to call them, minimum viable product, right? That's what we need to get out of this. So, I did come up with the concept. There's like a My Little Murder Pod mod or blueprint or whatever, that's very similar to this. I have some different stuff obviously on it, but yeah, that's the concept, right? Like, it's a tiny little thing. It's throwaway, right? You fly it up at a ship. It's either like a escape pod, or it's like some way to attack without having to like use a lot of resources. And the way you do this is through hydrogen, because honestly, ion is expensive, atmospheric is expensive, and atmospheric is also very heavy. So, like, let's look at this. This is motors, 18 motors, a metal grid, and it is 699 kilograms just for this little tiny atmospheric thruster. But for a hydrogen, no grids, or a lot less grids, no motors, right? I think it's a lot less grids. Was that more grids? Actually, it is more grids, but no motors. But in general, as far as I know, these are a lot less, but they're also half as much weight. And the thing about the murder pod is you want something extremely agile, something you can fly around in very quickly. So I'm going to take my design that I had before, which is based off the My Little Murder Pod, and I'm going to iterate on this. So how I do this? How do you iterate? I take this and I take a copy, and I go, okay, how can I build this? Or how did I build this before? How did somebody else build this? And I kind of strip it down, right? So in this case, you can see there's a cockpit here, and then right behind I have some conveyors that I put, obviously, and then those lead into the O2H2 generator and then the connector. So the way it connects up is this O2 or this connector, and then you'd have a merge block here to build it, right? There's a lot of parts of this that aren't printable, so this is actually not that great for printing. Again, we're going to build everything to be printable. So that's going to have to be a thing. The other thing is, when I was testing this out before, this is like, again, like a year or two ago, every time I would come up against an enemy, they would shoot at my cockpit and I'd immediately blow up. So it's not necessarily that you want a cockpit with a lot of integrity. What you want is the cockpit to be unable to be attacked so easily. So either you have it hidden or you don't have it up front, right? So you could also have decoys if you stick decoys out in front on the sides, kind of like this guy is. So this guy flies like this, and like if you put decoys up here, those are first that the enemy sees, and so it'll attack the decoys and then it'll attack you. So you could do something like that. Yeah, so how are we going to do this? So I will, again, so we're going to do hydro. It's not going to be very long lasting, but if I remember correctly, I have 2 or 3 hydrogen tanks on this thing. Yeah, so there's one there. There's the generator, and then there's probably one on this side, obviously. So that's all we have is 2 tanks there. Is there anything on the bottom? Looks like the bottom is just armor covering things up. Okay. The other thing is, do you want it to look sleek in design? I don't really care about the design of something that's an MVP like this. What I care about is function, right? So let me go ahead. I'm going to build a few little ideas, and we'll see what kind of seems to work, right? Okay, so this is what I've come up with. Giving a good example here. Let me get this off the screen. All right, so as you can see, these are... Let me get these off the ground a little bit so there's not so many cloudage. All right, so as you can kind of see, I went with a very similar profile. But from above, it is a little longer. It's basically the same width. It might technically be a little bit wider. No, actually, it's exactly the same width, but it's thinner. So same width, thinner, technically, because so these blocks are one above, technically, the connector. So is this armor panel, but you could remove the armor panels. But the bottom here actually has 2 blocks below, and this only has 1. So technically it is thinner. Thinner, longer, same width. Now the length is mostly down to having the cockpit completely surrounded. Now these up front are all light armor blocks. The other thing I changed was I put 4 autocannons instead of 4 Gatlins, and instead of any rockets. So the thought here is that you only need 1 type of ammo on this craft. You need 2 types of ammo for this craft. One of them requiring... so that's a good question. What do they require? So what rockets require... Yeah, rockets require platinum, uranium, magnesium, which is a huge, huge resource drain. So, really, this is way more expensive in a lot of ways than this. Now, it has a very similar thrust profile, right? Except it's got more on the bottom, more on the top, more, same on the left and right, and 1 more in the back. So technically, this ship should be faster, smaller in most cases, and it should be more deadly and cheaper to use. So the real way to test this, it also doesn't look great, but again, this is like the first test. So let's go ahead, head over there. This is in Creative World again, so I'm not getting... Yeah. It's not even facing me. So I'm assuming I hit some of the... So let's go over here. Oh, it lost the AI blocks. Oh, so now all it's doing is the basic task. Okay. Huh. See, I was hoping the AI would just work. So, without blocks. Okay. Let me go ahead and load into a world I haven't messed with the settings and just see if these work relatively okay. All right? Okay, I think we figured it out. So, let's see how good this is or is not. Shit. Is he going to attack me? Is it? Is it? Is it? Damage is allowed. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, damage isn't on. There we go. Now. Come on, buddy. as I can't see anything. Okay. So let's do this again. So we're gonna blue drone. Okay. Can't just copy it. Okay. Well. It's gonna make a, a bunch of them. We're gonna see if this whole group can take me out. I don't know if there's a better way to doing all this, but I assume there is. I don't know that this is even a good. Yeah, I'm still not really damaged at all. Okay, I'm gonna assume that this is not a good way of doing this. Is he even gonna shoot me if I get... Okay, they will shoot me. They're just not very good at flying. Center of the circle is definitely not a better place to shoot. But I mean, the front's torn up, but I am not torn up, which is kind of the best part. That's what we were looking for. So I'll be right back. So, going down a slightly different path with the design, and again, this is why iteration's good. I decided to try to sort of replicate what I could do, but replicate it in a reverse fashion. So instead of having, so on this one, right, and on the murder pod, you have your cockpit, O2H2 generator, and then connector. They fit together perfectly, right? That's why you can have such a small craft. This didn't work out very well. So you can put the O2H2 generator on the back, but then it doesn't leave any spaces for thrusters, which thrusters are very important. I tried to put an extra tank, but then, now you have even further back. And so I put it on the front, and that was kind of the only place to put it, which is great because then it protects your cockpit more. But then this guy's getting on the bottom. I guess I could put this technically on the back, but it doesn't fit very well. And then I had to use the back of this. You have to use the thing. So I mean, there might be a way to like put the connector in the front. I was actually considering that, but if the connector shot out, then the ship is literally just throwaway, right? Like it's literally, there's nothing else you could do with it. And already, without putting any armor on it, which, putting a layer of armor on it right now would make it, double as long as the normal murder pod, right? It would make it, just as wide, actually a little less wide than the other ones, but much taller too. So taller and longer. This actually kind of gives up a little bit, or is a bonus, right? But you're giving up more length, which is not that bad, but less height. Technically, the height is similar, but not quite there, because even though the armor panels don't count as a full block technically, you can print them like that, so it kind of works. It doesn't flow very well with the parts, and so I don't think I'm going to go down this path any further. Now, the thing I did notice was that we're kind of running out of hydrogen pretty quickly on the planet, and in space, right? Like anywhere, we're running out of running out of hydrogen pretty quickly. So I'm going to actually de-armor this, and I'm going to see if there's a way for me to add more tanks and take away something for it, basically. The other thing here is this is 13,000 kilograms. The little murder pod is 13,000, so it's a few points over. That's it. So if we go to this one, it's probably 14. Okay, 13. So yeah, it's not really any more weight either. And this guy is currently half the weight, almost. Now the thing is, again, you put a bunch of armor on this thing, and it's now going to be just as heavy, basically. The thing is, though, it also doesn't have as much thrust in certain directions, so it's not going to be as agile. Right now it is, but that's just because it doesn't have any armor. So, okay, I'll be back. So I have done, it doesn't look like much. Honestly, it looks a little shorter. Yeah, so the nose part here, the guns are actually sticking out a little bit further. So it's actually 1 block longer. But all the actual parts are a little shorter. This kind of looks like a bulldog version, and that kind of looks like maybe like a puppy version. I don't know, because it's got like little arms sticking out or whatever. These little arms. And this one's just like snub-nosed. Anyway, so this version, as you can tell, has a lot of like automated parts on it. It's got all these event controllers on the bottom. Well, I covered them up, but there's AI blocks. So this thing has remote control in it. Oh, actually, I removed the remote control. Let me add that back. What's the remote control? Is this one? Nope, it's this one. Okay. So I had it right there. So it's got camera, right? So it's got all kinds of stuff all over it. Now, if we look at the weight here, 13,000 kilograms. 13,000 kilograms. It's a little heavier than that one. And less. So least heavy, more heavy, but by 200 kilograms. And then this one's 300 kilograms. So not that much more weight. But this one is obviously better than that one because of all the excess parts that are useful. And then this one is less, I would say. Because, again, the cockpit is a big thing here. You hit the cockpit and the thing will be uncontrollable, right? Like, there's no remote controls on this one. There's nothing. You can't do anything about it. So, quite the problem. On this one, so let me just throw a magnetic plate on here somewhere. Probably right there is fine. Put it there, but I'm just going to put it in the center there. I think that works fine. So I moved the guns forward because these guns are actually closer together. So you see on this one how when I was shooting it, it was kind of difficult to know if they were actually hitting because they weren't close together. So these are closer together, so they're in front of the cockpit. The other reason for that is that these have a lot of integrity, 800 integrity. I also have even a blast door block, right? It's 500 integrity. That's way less than the autocannon. I've got a thruster here, which is, another K worth of integrity. So having that in front of the cockpit is also really good. Light armor, slope blocks. The other thing is these barred windows, 135 integrity. These armor plates, 100. So these are actually better to cover your ship in than the armor panels. The heavy armor panels are about double. And then the blast door blocks are 500. So this also has 4 tanks on it instead of the 2 of that. So the 2 tanks are up here on this. Here their tanks are spread out. The only difference is that like this is where the tanks are over here, so it's a little less kinked. Like it doesn't have any like kinking in the armor like this one does. Kind of looks like this one's just a solid piece, and this one's like it has nacelles or whatever. At least from the top, from the bottom, they're basically the same. The big difference again is just the autocannons. Now on the side, we also have less turning force, but I think that's okay. The big thing here is that what I wanted was I wanted a ship that can fire pretty well. I think that's pretty good, right? And then what we want is good up and good down, and then good forward. So we have 3 in the back and 4 on up and down. So we can go, and the idea here is you can just hold spacebar, and you can just rotate around a target very quickly and basically keep them in purview the whole time. Just about, basically. Especially if they're a little bigger. If they're really small, it's going to be a little hard, but, you know, I'm not really worried about that. This only has one battery on it, on the entire ship. But the big thing here is that that's not a big deal. It's got more hydrogen, so again, this can last in Atmo a little longer. It can fight a little longer. I do really like that this is kind of like a bulldog. It's got better armoring, more armoring up front. Things that don't matter as much are up front. Things that matter more are in the back, especially the cockpit. Now, you've got these heavy armor panels right over the cockpit, just like the barred windows. Now, obviously, you can't see much in here, but you can see a little. So I could, like, you know, I could go closer to over there, right? Because I kind of know what's over there. So technically, if the camera's shut off, you know, then we have that ability. The thing I noticed about the cameras is because it's not a circular camera that you can just like put on front of blocks, you now have to put it literally on the top. It can't be anywhere else. What Keen really should do is take this camera and have in the settings menu is a way to flip the camera, like flip it 90 degrees or 180 or whatever, so that you can put it on the bottom of the ship or you can put it on the top or the sides. That would make it really useful because every time it was on the sides, like now my controls are messed up, right? So they really need to do that. But yeah, so we've got even more armor in the front from the cockpit, and then we've got kind of a few other conveyors up here. One of the things here is this is a conveyor. But it's a reinforced conveyor, and that's 300 integrity, way more than the little unarmored conveyors. Same back here. There's a nice conveyor back here, so again, can take more hits. All the stuff that doesn't matter is on the outside, basically, and all the stuff that matters is on the inside or directly below these plates. So I don't expect to get a lot of hits on the top or bottom. I expect to get hit from the front or the sides, and at you know, possibly from the back. So again, this thing is much more survivable as far as I can tell. Maybe I'll have to have a little like dogfight with somebody sometime, but yeah, I might record that. I'm not sure. We'll see. So that is how I'm designing my little murder pod and how I've designed it and the kind of iterations I've gone through, the thought processes, some of the trials and errors. I think this is way better than this. I don't know if it's necessarily even more expensive. So we've got non-armor blocks of 62, 157 blocks in total. This is 161 blocks and 103 non-armor blocks. And again, some of that is actually useful blocks for even armoring. So yeah, so I think really it's a huge bonus, but we'll have to see if that is. I'm gonna leave us there for this one, and yeah, we'll see you next time.